All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings all. Glad you could make it for the Big Friday show, our end of the week wrap. It's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty terrific. Yeah, we've had a great week. God, it's something like, so I had a little bit of a crisis here. Maybe you'll appreciate it. We all have life crises of one sort or another. I lost my credibility glasses. So
What?
I know, it was pretty intense. I had a full nobody leaves till we find them bulletin that I had to issue here in the household. And I panicked, and just about 2 minutes ago, I said, well, I'm going to have to wear my, because I need them to see, I'm going to have to wear my sunglasses, which looks totally pretentious, weird, and also oddly sexy, if I can say. Yeah. So,
well, you've got some buttons undone. You're showing some chestage. I think.
I didn't mean to do that.
You've got it. You know.
I didn't
mean to button up. I mean, I was.
That. I don't. Have
it was like we're loosening up on a Friday. Yeah.
I had one button undone. It's.
Good morning, Mr. Thompson.
Unbelievable.
Kim, how are you?
All right, we've got a lot to do today, and I'm going to get to it. I did find my credibility glasses, which are critical, and I've got some curls I don't know. The whole thing's a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
I feel like we should give credit to Courtney because she probably just brought them in, right?
Well, of course you would say that, Kim, but the reality is that I found them without Courtney. So,
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, but you
really?
But if you'd like to always give credit,
I blame you.
Well, I am to blame for them being lost. It is true. But look, my glam squad didn't make it today, and you can tell I'm a little disheveled.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Albert is here,
Albert, thank
everyone. We love our Albert, and today Albert has curated a Florida segment that we feature on Friday. And also, I think by now, because I've asked and he's told me he didn't do it, and I gave him extra time to do it, that he probably has tweeted. Have you tweeted by now,
yes.
Albert?
Yes, the show has been tweeted.
Right.
Albert, thank you.
God. It's a little slow on that. I don't know how important it is, but I still think we like to throw up the billboard on Twitter to say that we're on. And here it is. Let me read it. It's a classic Friday Mark Thompson show. Friday Fabulous Florida, Michael Shure on politics, and Michael Snider on what to watch this weekend. We're live, and he put in the YouTube link. Very well done, sir. Yeah. I'm excited. I always like to, at the beginning of the program, give us a look into grievances. Everybody's got a grievance. Sometimes they limit them to the chat. Sometimes they spill over the grievances into emails. And I'm always happy to hear from you. If you have a grievance, if you have a compliment.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Most people write emails when they have a grievance. People don't sit down and go, gosh, I've just got a compliment. Whatever it is, that restaurant, that show. And so it is here.
Kim, how are you?
I listening to your show with all of you, and your great guest is the best part of my workday, says Teresa O.
Big shout out.
Oh, that's
Teresa
nice.
O, as in O, thank you so much for that $10 super chat. Thank you all, she says. Wow, that's so cool, Teresa. Well, we love having you in the mix, and I guess you're lucky enough to be able to join us live. Most people watch the show in delay, of course, and it's great that we have a robust group of people who join us live. Spencer Jaffe, always
Big
in
shout
early.
out.
I think he was the first super sticker to the show today with a $2, then a $5 super.
Big shout
I'd
out.
love to know what goes through your mind, Spencer. First you hit us with a 2, then you hit us with a 5. I love it. I'm just curious, like, do you go, I'm going to give him 5. I think I should have given him another 5 on top of the 2. Anyway, however you do it, it's terrific to have your contribution, your support. And sorry that my hair is a little wavy and curling out today. I don't think, as I say, my Glam team didn't really handle it. So to the letter, which is critical, and this does involve potentially, Albert, a poll that we might do.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I don't know that we'll do a poll on this, but it might be something that is of interest and people might have strong opinions on.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Well, it's funny you say that because this is about that.
They're eating the dogs.
Okay, let me read the email. This is from someone who is a big supporter of the show, and we take seriously. My dog has been hiding under the sofa since Tuesday, and he guesses why, says Brian. Yeah, there. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Chris from Menlo Park. Menlo Park, what a great neighborhood. You're right. I love the peninsula, just south of San Francisco.
Have you seen these videos that people are posting all over the place where, dogs can have this surprised look on their face? And so, they're watching the debate and the dog turns to them or the cat turns to them with this shocked look on their face. They're hilarious.
Well,
they're eating the dogs.
I hang on a second. I'm just going to grab a little bit of the Coachella Valley coffee before I read this letter, which does very much pertain to what we're talking about. So
I know. I just...
God, that's good coffee. Someone was asking me about the red cup. So I got a sticker off of our merch site, which is getmarkmerch.com. That's where you can get the throw pillow, and the official cup is a black cup. Yeah. So you can get the logo and some stuff like that. And so I got the logo, and these are stickers, right? You can just put them anywhere, and I put them on the cup. This thing's been through the dishwasher 70 times, and it's still fine.
Oh,
Look at it.
Looks great.
Yeah. So
that's a strong sticker right there.
And it's a strong showing. I like the red. It kind of establishes that, I'm the boss.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, I'm somebody important.
I'm
a red cup guy. But I like the black cup also. That's why it's the official cup of the show. Now, let me get one more sip.
Sandy in Redwood City says, Mark's Madness is going to be so hard next year. I thought AOC had it nailed with Baby Girl, but they're eating dogs is too funny.
It is true.
Thank you.
It is true.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
That was and is a pick to go deep, but we'll have to see. Well, let me get to the letter because this email, again, is pertaining to what we're talking about.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Okay, all right. Here it is. Mark, this is from Sheila. And Sheila, as I was saying, is an early adopter of the Mark Thompson show. She's with us. I think she comes out of the radio show that birthed this show, which really led, as I say, to us coming over here to the YouTube platform and then across the audio platforms where this show can be taken in as an audio broadcast, as in podcast. So Sheila is kind of important to us, I guess is what I'm saying. It's kind of like getting an email from a family member because you're, all of you in the community, all of you who support us, all of you Patreon and PayPal people, I'm not just saying it. You can ask Kim and Albert. I talk about it all the time. You are, to me, you're the community, the important community/family. So now to Sheila's email, which again is elevated a bit in my mind. Mark, I want to start this by saying I'm your biggest fan, which is really cool to hear. And I love the show. I'm getting... She didn't literally put the butt in, but that is the way most emails work. It is, I love your show. You're the greatest. Oh my God. I've never seen anyone, met anyone, witnessed anything like this. ... But,
yeah.
So she doesn't say but man, there is a big one coming. I want to start this by saying I'm your biggest fan and I love the show. I'm getting sick to my stomach every time you play the Trump drop of eating our pets. I mean, that's kind of the...
They're eating the dogs.
Yeah, they're eating the pets.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
First, it is super disgusting, she says. Secondly, it is extremely racist and not at all funny, she says. I watch in replay most days, so she's going to see this a little bit later today, while I am eating my lunch. The last thing I want to hear while I am eating is about people eating pets. Has anyone else mentioned this? I had to turn the show off today so that I could eat. And I'm resistant to trying it again because I feel you are going to drop it more. And I want to hear David Katz. Thanks for being so awesome, Sheila. Now, I'm, cut to the quick.
They're eating the dogs.
I think it's absurd. The drop is a reflection of an absurd comment and ridiculous assertion being made by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. So, yeah, I think it's utterly stupid. I think they're stupid. You're right. It's a smear, I guess, if you think about it this way. In other words, if you really focus on it and try to, figure out where it comes from, the origins of it, it's a bust on Haitians, right? Whose idea was it to send all the Haitians to one town, says Jose. Exactly. It's so absurd that I feel as though it plays funny. So you're right. I drop it because I think it's funny. You can legitimately, Sheila, have an issue with it. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. It rubs you the wrong way. Look, I personally love animals to the point that I am a vegan for compassionate reasons. It has nothing to do with health. It has to do with the way animals are treated and the horrifying conditions under which they are raised and murdered. You don't need to tell me about how awful it is when someone says something or jokes, perhaps, about animals in some way that's offensive. So
I've also never met anyone who loved their cats as much as you love yours.
Well, I don't know about that. There are many real cat lovers out there too, but I could say to you, it's odd to me that you would be so grossed out by the cat-dog comment and about eating cats and dogs over lunch when you look down at that plate and it's a roast beef sandwich. So you see where I am on this. On the one hand, I'm quite sympathetic for all the reasons that I've noted. You are a supporter of the show. You're an early adopter of the show. I care about how you take in the show and what offends you. But I also want you just to say, look, it's a joke, man. Let it go, okay? Just the way a lot of us who care about animals have to let it go.
Well, the more you play it, the more ridiculous it looks and sounds, right?
Thank you. I mean, that's the idea. It's an absurd thing. It's one more absurd thing that Trump is saying. My beautiful half Haitian mother will be roasting a pig tonight, just like Kamala did during the debate. So that's from Steph Curry. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. That's great.
Well, that's what Adolf Twitler says that he said. I
haven't,
I haven't sourced it.
I don't know, but
I love it when you're angry.
I'm not angry. I'm not angry at all. I actually am quite grateful to Sheila for that note. But Mark should do. This is from Peter, who throws a $5 super chat at us. Thank you, Peter.
Big
Mark
shout out.
should do the Mark Thompson Show drops playoff to coincide with the college football playoff. Now that it is 12 teams. Commish, that would require, and Peter is asking for the commish to weigh in, that would require a sea change in the way we do drops on this show to have another playoff. But what he's saying, or at least implying, I think Peter is implying, you have a playoff to then determine what will be some Mark's Madness entrance. In other words, there's so many like that AOC and the Trump stuff. Would you take a meeting on that, commish, or how do you feel about that?
I like the idea, but we're merging sports. We're reflecting college basketball here. I know it's exciting. College football is back, but we have our play-ins. So we have our play-ins, and we have more than 12 teams in our bracket. We have the whole 24 seeds. So it's a little different, but I
think what the commish is saying, if I can decode the commish to you, Peter, is there's a purity to what we do on this show. And the commish does not want to, in any way, dilute that purity. You can understand that.
What?
I mean, he's the commish. You expect him to protect that which he's charged with protecting. So,
Albert, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Albert. Rampage Radio SF for $5 super
Big
chat
shout
says,
out.
"Oh, Sheila, if MT Show is making you lose your lunch, MT Show is a success. Dr. Katz is Dr. Katz. Tomatoes, potato. Dr. Katz is Dr. Katz. Dr. Katz, C-A-T-S, is Dr. Katz, K-A-T-Z. Tomatoes, potatoes. Kim will now explain that last part to me.
I don't.
I am so sometimes unable to. I feel so stupid occasionally, or not, or you know what I mean, ill-equipped.
No, but I think
to-
it's a nice comment. Yeah.
Oh, Rampage Radio SF always has.
yeah.
Wait a minute, and then I'm going to play you the Stephen Miller stuff. It's pretty crazy. What?
I know.
My favorite
McAllister.
McAllister.
Blah, blah, blah.
There is no McAllister even close to how much I love Lucy McAllister.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, and a $20 super sticker to get me started.
Thank you so much.
So much, Lucy. Thank you, darling. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Gosh, Lucy, what a great McAllister you are. No Contendo says, Jim Carrey, please bring back Ace Ventura to clown Trump. Exactly. I don't know. Trump is self-clowning a bit. And, of course, he's doubling down on the entire pet eating thing and all the madness that, he was uncorking for the debate. And as we noted, and I think we were one of the first shows to note it because I noted it before the debate. And now you're hearing a lot about Laura Loomer, right? But we've talked about Laura Loomer on this show for a while. I mean, again, references here and there. And now you realize that she's hanging with Trump. She's really Trump's wing woman. And as a result of the time spent with Trump, he is regurgitating these conspiracy theories that Laura Loomer is filling his head with. You heard a little bit of that on Tuesday night during the debate. So there's been a lot of, and she really is, she's a true conspiracy theorist with, I don't know, I think there's a lot of this crew from the extreme right that is bundling up a lot of different conspiracies. Laura Loomer is a conspiracy theorist of the classic sort, meaning she's a 9/11 conspiracist, and that's why I was commenting yesterday that it was offensive that you could bring Laura Loomer to the 9/11 memorial service. That Trump could do that is so tone deaf. I mean, I get that he likes to make noise, but it's so tone deaf. She believes that 9/11 was an inside job, and I'm putting to the side all the documentaries and writings on it. I've seen a lot of it. I've talked to many of you who may believe that on some level, but fine. Then don't go to the goddamn memorial service, okay? It's offensive. It's a real thing. People lost lives, families, loved ones, the ripple effects, the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. Those were all ramped up as a result of 9/11. It changed foreign policy and domestic policy, the way we travel. It was an inflection moment in this country. And the fact that you think it's an inside job, great. Don't go to the memorial service for it. And Laura Loomer is truly toxic. And so she is yet another who helped birth this pet eating thing, you know what I mean? And that's where he's getting a lot of what he's doing and did in that debate.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
I mean, and I think, last thing on that, the more they double down on that, the more absurd it becomes. And the Springfield, Ohio thing, and the fact that there is nothing to that, and the fact that it's a real attack on a community that doesn't deserve to be attacked, the Haitian community.
Did you know that they have received bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio? Their city buildings are closed now for a second day because of the issue of immigration bringing in bomb threats to that city. This is not something you just say. I mean, we make fun of it because it's so ridiculous and so absurd that we have to poke it with a stick because, oh my God. But it's causing real problems for this little community. And imagine how Haitian Americans are now being treated by people that believe this ridiculousness. No.
Here, here. Walnut Creek adult softball says, I can't believe she was the Republican nominee to represent Florida's 21st congressional district. This is absolutely true in the 2020 House. So she lost that race, but that's absolutely true that she made it through. She speaks very well, by the way. If you watch Laura Loomer, if you know her stuff at all, she speaks well and almost with a righteousness that can be very deceiving. These aren't. I think the clunkiest con is the Trump con. He, to me, speaks in the most clunky fashion. Maybe in the clunky right-wing ecosphere, Marjorie Taylor Greene speaks quite clunkily, but Laura Loomer speaks well, and it's quite deceptive. Vilma, what up, Vilma? Big shout out to Vilma. Mark, my thanks go out to you, Kim and Albert, for, in my eyes, having the best talk show on YouTube.
Big shout out.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I believe it's deserving of a British, a faux British. Thank you so much.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Stephen Miller in the rogues gallery of government appointments that Donald Trump served up was one of the true despicable figures who, and this is quite Trumpian, never backs down. So following the debate, he got into it with a Latino reporter about Venezuelan crime rates. It's an odd thing to go to war over, but essentially, and we're going to play it for you now, essentially, he's arguing we're getting all that crime from Venezuela. You understand, if ever there's an incident and it involves Venezuelans, now it's all about Venezuela and Venezuelan illegal immigrants. This, again, is not to trivialize or in to any way dismiss the legitimate immigration issue that this country has. But to make this Venezuelan immigrant problem the rallying point for a bunch of issues associated with crime may be also a little unfair. So, he says, this is essentially, I'm going to play it for you, but I just want to prep you. He says that crime is rising here, these Venezuelan gangs are coming, and corresponding crime rates are dropping in Venezuela. And so the Venezuelan journalist, or Latino journalist, I think he's from Venezuela, maybe he's not, was associated with, his comeback was, well, when you say that crime is down 60% in Venezuela, is that a figure that, where are you getting that figure? Is that an official government figure? Because they make up the government figures in Venezuela the same way Trump makes up statistics on stage at a debate. I mean, it's totally just completely invented. So that was the fact that this reporter wouldn't let go of, and Miller just loses it. And you see the utter contemptuousness with which Miller greets the press. Go ahead,
Because he
Albert.
can't. He's not used to being questioned. He can't bring the facts.
Indeed.
What will happen? All these,
Day one.
all these criminal migrants that have been flooded in the country are going to be the first to get thrown out of here. I mean, you've seen case after case, these heartbreaking tragedies. Those ones are going to get found and deported first. And look at this Venezuelan gang. You have a Venezuelan gang that is taking over entire apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. And that's responsible, by the way, for some of the most heinous crimes that have happened all over the United States. The crime rate in Venezuela is down, I believe, a little bit over 60% over the last several years.
Are you trusting the official figures from the Venezuelan dictatorship?
Let's put it this way. If you're a dictator of a poor country with a high crime rate, wouldn't you send your criminals to our open border?
That wasn't my question. Are you
But
trusting the
my-
figures of the dictatorships? Those are Maduro numbers.
I am believing that it is in the interest of a criminal dictator to let his criminals out of their jails and come to our
Do
country.
you have numbers, real numbers, not
I have
dictatorship
numbers.
numbers?
The Venezuelan gangs that have you've seen the CCTV footage. I have a question. Who do you think? Answer me
My
this.
family is from Venezuela.
Yes.
I know very well the situation of Caracas and many other
Right, and
cities.
tell me, who were the people with the high-powered rifles in the hallway of that apartment building? Who were they?
They were gangsters from Venezuela.
Right. No American community.
But I was asking to you about figures, numbers,
what I'm saying
facts.
to you is the facts are the dead bodies. The facts are.
You said that Caracas has a lowest crime rate than the USA.
The facts are the mutilated bodies. The facts are the people in the morgues that are dead.
I was asking you about Caracas and the numbers in Caracas. Are you trusting the numbers of the dictatorship?
I am trusting the fact that Kamala Harris is letting illegal immigrants into this country who are raping and murdering children.
I had been very respectful. Why are you yelling?
Do you know who Jocelyn Ungary is? Do you know who she is?
Do you know how many people is experiencing violence in Caracas?
Who is she? Who is Laken Riley?
Why are you yelling again?
Because I'm yelling because children are being raped and murdered.
I was just asking for figures, and you have not replied to me about those figures.
Murdered. Do you know who Kayla Hamilton is?
Do you trust the numbers of Nicolas Maduro? I'm asking again.
I trust a ruthless dictator will empty his prisons and send their criminals to our country.
So you trust his numbers?
The most dangerous gang in Venezuela is
you trust Nicolas Maduro?
I trust that he does not want his criminals to be.
So you believe in his numbers?
I believe he's sending his criminals to our country.
And do you think that the crime rate in Venezuela have decreased?
Do you not believe the law enforcement reports of Venezuelan gangs in this country?
I was asking for the Venezuelan government figures, not the figures here.
Or not? Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not? Yes or no?
What are the figures that you say to say that in Caracas the number is lower than in the USA?
Venezuelan gangs in this country or not?
So you don't have numbers.
You know who has numbers? The Department of Homeland Security. You can ask Mayorkas for numbers. You can ask the Director Ray for the numbers.
Sir,
I'm telling you.
You said that in Venezuela the crime rate is lower than the USA.
Yes, because
what are your numbers? That's my question.
Because the criminals are here now.
Those are Maduro's numbers.
I can tell you again that Border Patrol agents are encountering thousands
you trust
of
Maduro numbers?
I trust the border agents in our country.
But and I am not saying that Caracas has a lower crime rate.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not wasting your time. I'm asking for facts as a journalist.
Do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care at all about the dead children?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I want to leave you with, is that Donald Trump will come to office.
I was just asking for figures.
Here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to be elected president, and the migrant gangs are going to be sent home. Children's lives will be saved. And you know who will benefit the most? Are the working class Hispanic communities that are besieged by gang violence.
So you don't have figures.
Public schools that are being overtaken by migrant gangs. You have MS-13 that is brutalizing children. You have Kayla Hamilton, who was a 20-year-old autistic girl who was raped and murdered, beaten to death. That will end. That will stop, and our children's lives will be saved. That is the most virtuous thing that can possibly be done. We are going to save the lives of our children. We will not let Kamala Harris condemn them to a life of misery, suffering, and death. Thank you.
I'm not replying my question.
Well, I mean...
Why are you yelling?
Just in love with that reporter. His name is Jose Maria Del Pino. He works for NTN24. Mm-hmm. And he was like a dog with a bone, would not let it go. And I loved it.
No, it's true. Now, he's Chilean or so. I was trying to see or Colombian. I think he may be Colombian. Is that what the chat was saying? I don't know, but you know, if maybe you can see in his bio. But I believe he is, at least according to the chat,
Google it.
He's a Colombian. So, but to the point, first of all, I love his accent. I mean, I'm just a sucker for accents anyway, and he just speaks so beautifully. He speaks English so beautifully with the Latino accent. God, I just melt for that. But I will say that there is a good news, bad news part of this, and if I could just comment on it super quickly. The good news is that Miller seems unhinged, and he seems ridiculously jihadist in his ways that he views the immigrant community, the us versus them, blaming the immigrant community for the ills associated with crime in this country is just a truly twisted, perverted way to look at a legitimate issue, which is the border. There he is, Jose Maria Del Pino. Mm-hmm. Is he's Chilean. There it is. Okay, Chilean DC correspondent. In any case, the bad news is this. This is an issue that lands with a lot of people, as you know. When you look at polling and you talk to most Americans, the economy and the border are the two things that really do resonate as issues with most Americans. And so, even though Miller is unhinged, and even though Miller, I would say, lost that exchange because he was inventing numbers the same way that the Trump administration was inventing numbers for the time they were in office, and now Trump continues to invent numbers when he's on stage, as I say, it still showcases and underscores an issue that does resonate with many people, which is the immigrant problem. And they would digest that in this way. They'd say, well, his numbers aren't important. The important thing is it's an issue. And I want a president and an administration that's committed to doing something about that issue. So that's how it can play and reverberate even after this exchange has been made fun of and has been seen across Twitter and Instagram, et cetera, and other social media, TikTok, et cetera. I'll ask Michael Shure about it in the second hour of the show. Michael will join us, as we mentioned, and I'll ask him. He has a pretty good barometer of the political effects of things like this, but that's the way I see it. I see it as good news, bad news. Yeah.
Beauty of what Mr. Pino did there was that he could have pulled out more than one of the statements that Miller was making and asked for them to be factually corroborated. Because when he was going off on his tangent, he talked about this Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex in Colorado. That story has been completely debunked. He was spewing all of these things that were wrong, or had been, have already had holes poked in them, these ridiculous stories. The fact that he glommed on to this one fact and just didn't let it go, it would have been lost if he had asked for corroboration on all the different lies being told there. But because it was a simple, do you have the figures? Do you have the figures? It was brilliant the way he did it. Loved it.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of so again, do you have a plan for healthcare? You've been talking about it for a while, and then you get
I have a plan.
The concepts of a plan. So I want to quickly, Albert, I'm trying to figure out what I should do here. Anyway, appreciate your comments. And if you have comments on that exchange and beyond, please leave them in the comments. If you're watching in delay, as most people do, please leave us comments on YouTube. I read all the comments. In fact, I saw
The Mark Thompson Show.
And I saw, a comment I thought I sent to you, Albert. I don't know if I did. Whenever I see a good comment, a bad comment that I think we might be able to use in the show, I try to include it and push it to Albert, but I might not have done so on yesterday's show. I mean, I read the comments. I just don't know if I pushed anything. I did want to give you one story that is, I suspect, going to affect some of you. It should affect all of us on some level. Just when you think about this, I've talked about this issue with regulatory capture before, where essentially the government is so captured, the regulatory arm of many of the different administrative instruments of government so captured by big business that they look the other way. This is how Boeing gets away with so much for so long. You see it in the world of big pharma. You see it with the Monsanto and the entire issue with their weed killer and the fact that it's filled with carcinogens. And they were able to drag that out for so long, so it took a civil suit to actually bring them to bear. Anyway, now you see it in a new story which is associated with something that we reported to you when it happened, and that's the listeria outbreak. It led to the boar's head meat being recalled. This is supposed to be the high-end meat, and U.S. inspectors listed serious problems with this boar's head facility in 2022. Could have resulted in strict measures like a pause in production till they got these issues addressed. But the plant continued operating, and conditions in the plant persisted. This is a deadly outbreak of listeria. So U.S. inspectors did warn that conditions at this Boar's Head plant posed, quote, an imminent threat to public health. They cited extensive rust, deli meats exposed to wet ceilings, green mold, and holes in the wall. But the U.S. Agriculture Department did not impose strict measures on the plant. This is in Virginia. They could have gotten a warning letter. They could have had, again, suspensions of operations ordered by the U.S. government. Since then, other inspections found that many of the problems persisted. But again, the plant continued to process tons of beef and pork products, including liverwurst.
Gross.
So they did sequencing of genome tests in New York and Maryland after this breakout of the listeria. And they found that boar's head liverwurst was filled with this bacteria, and that bacteria is the bacteria that killed people or it made them very ill. This is according to the CDC. So the company recalled its liverwurst. You'll remember that happened this summer, late July. And then Boar's Head expanded the recall to cover more than 3,500 tons of meat. Again, we reported this to you. The ham, anything that came out of that Jared facility in Virginia, they recalled. So they temporarily stopped stuff there, and that is production there. 9 elderly people have died, dozens hospitalized. This is the worst listeria outbreak in years. And again, I point to these USDA trained inspectors. They go to these various facilities, and there is an aspect of all of this that is associated with regulatory capture. So there should be a USDA person at all of these facilities all the time. Like there's a full-time person at the slaughterhouses, at all these places where the dirty deeds of processing meat are performed. And it takes time to get those reports issued when there are problems with various processing plants. And then it takes time to act upon those recommendations. In this case, these recurring instances of unsanitary conditions should have produced stricter enforcement, and they didn't. And I'd suggest to you to allow the company to keep producing meat with these egregious examples, extreme examples of unsanitary conditions, puts the public at risk. And so the government, I think, has a responsibility to the public to protect them from this sort of thing, and they have not done that. So it's really twofold. It's obviously the company for being as negligent as they have been, but it's also the government for allowing these regulatory, federal regulatory, and also state regulatory agencies to essentially be captured by this company. So this is 2022. And when USDA was contacted by journalists who are all over the story now on this listeria, what do? No comment. No comment from the USDA.
You know, the problem with this is that we go along through our lives and we expect that the government is doing its job to protect us. And we don't expect the government to drop the ball in this way when they knew there was a problem and they did nothing to make sure that we were safe. Which really then puts a question mark over everything else at the grocery store, right?
Well, it should put a question mark over a lot of things at the grocery store and a lot of other things associated with public safety. This is what we talk about with Boeing. That Boeing is also the result of regulatory capture. The FAA is captured by Boeing. They're too big a client, if you want to think of it that way, to really do anything to brush them back. And that's why they got away with all this shoddy maintenance on their planes. And as they, balkanized and broke out the different ways that they built a plane, it used to all be done in Seattle. Now they break out the fuselage part is built here, the other parts of the plane are built in another place, and you end up with shoddy workmanship that is backburnered. And we've talked about all the ways in which Boeing was really getting away with, frankly, literally murdering people. I mean, the MAX jets that went down did murder, in my judgment, over 300 people in those two crashes. But anyway, to the general point, yeah, the federal government is charged with protecting the people who live in this country, public safety, certainly the USDA and the FDA. And in this case, things were allowed to slide. And it should extend, as I say, to beyond the meat that you eat and beyond those things in the grocery store. It should extend to all parts of American life, where you're counting on the government to at least hold business and corporate interest to account. It's why I care very much about undoing the tepid regulatory structure that exists right now. So when you talk about the GOP, they want to get rid of regulation. You know, the world that comes out of Fox News Channel is associated with getting rid of all these guidelines and regulations. And when I say Fox News Channel, it also comes out of the Supreme Court. That's what the Chevron deference case is about, that the EPA doesn't have the constitutional right to protect the public. So your drinking water won't be evaluated and in some way judged by the EPA and EPA scientists. It'll be handled in some other way by judges, really, is what they're talking about, or legislatures. They're, at least according to the Supreme Court, the only ones who should have jurisdiction over that. Anyway, spent a little too long on that, but I wanted you to know. I think it's a big story, and I think it does reflect sort of the way that life in America is changing, and yet it's another example of something we've talked about on this show for years, which is regulatory capture. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, what is the story with Florida? Talk to me. Do you you've curated a Florida segment. On Fridays, we like to look at things that come out of the world of Florida. And you who are watching, and even those who are watching in delay, as I say most people do, you will be called upon to vote on your favorite. I feel as though there's some good stuff here because you do have the presence of reptiles. And when you add an alligator, other reptiles to Florida, you really are paying off a thirst on the part of our Friday Fabulous Florida public. Wouldn't you agree, Albert?
I agree. And the very first story with the video is very great. We get to talk to the person involved.
Wow. Okay. So with that tease from the commish, let's do it. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
An 84-year-old woman walking the dog near a pond in Florida. What could possibly go wrong?
I can see it.
Yep. We've talked about it. She walked right past the beware of alligator signs. Well, alligator jumps out of the pond. It was 7 feet 3 inches.
Oh, no.
Chomped her leg. The woman also sustained injuries to her arms and wrist. Hospitalized. She was someone who is, according to authorities, her condition unknown, but she sustained significant injuries after this bite from this alligator. There she is.
Del Apple's evening dog walk Thursday was the scariest she's had.
All of a sudden, I had a premonition. I'm telling you, it was like, uh-oh.
That gut feeling was a 7-foot gator about to lunge right at her.
That alligator took off like 35 miles an hour, and I'm not joking.
Bopple says she got close to the pond at Julia Mobile Home Park off Slater Road. She saw Gator's eyes looking back at her. Before she could think of anything else, she tossed her small Shih Tzu named Queen up in the air. Then the gator chomped.
She took a chunk out of me.
After a few good hits, that gator did scurry away, but not until it took a chunk out of her leg and fingers.
So who would you say first? If it was the kid or the gator, who are you?
Probably the dog.
Bopple says she's complained about the big gators to her community. They have not reached out to her and also have not returned my calls.
Wow.
They're eating the dogs.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
In this case, they're eating the lady. Wow.
It's the, right, it is the...
What can you tell us about the scene?
It looks like she's missing a finger and a piece of her leg, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
That finger will grow back on it.
When she said I have a premonition, I bet you can feel them watching you.
Well,
Don't you think?
Yeah, well, she said she saw the two eyes, And then
That's
she
so
threw the
scary.
dog, which is really cool. By the way, for 84, she's, I got to say, she seemed okay, meaning she seemed all there and she had a plan, which was to throw the dog far away so it could run away while the gator chomped her. But
and she had a correct response. She thought to herself, "Uh-oh." That was like the best part of the whole.
Yeah, the uh-oh is probably the response we would all have. A Florida man is arrested, meantime, on the other side of town for keeping 2 alligators in his backyard pool.
What?
Yeah. Central Florida is where this guy lived, Marion County. This guy's arrested for keeping alligators on his property. The Fish and Wildlife people got a call to go to the home of this guy who at first denied having alligators.
Gator? What gator?
Man, that's a thin story when you've got the thing swimming around.
I don't have a gator.
Then admitted there were 2 alligators in his pool. Oh, those alligators. Yes, I do. I have 2. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. During the investigation, officers who discovered a recently killed alligator on the property, along with several freshwater slider turtles. So this guy is borderline hoarder, twisted dude. He was arrested for 2 counts of possession of an alligator, 1 count of unlawful take, and 1 count of unlawful take of slider turtles. He is currently in custody. And speaking of stealing things, this isn't a reptile, but this Florida man is accused of stealing Spanish treasure coins that are worth over $50,000.
If you're going to steal something, I mean, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a strong plan rather than, having to go find them in some shipwreck offshore. I mean, just steal them.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
The problem is you probably can't unload those very easily. But, all right.
As is per usual, they don't think about the unloading. They only think about the jacking of the whatever it might be. In this case, it's Spanish gold coins. They're worth more than $50,000. He stole them from a Florida resident. There he is. I don't know. He kind of looks okay with life. He's 35 years old. Keontae Rynek Ocean Smith. Charged with grand theft and dealing in stolen property. We are looking at his booking photo. That's why I said he kind of looks okay with things. I'm going to give him a 7.
Kind of looks more like a passport photo than a booking photo.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He looks like, can you...
I'll also go for 7. Yeah.
All right, 7 looks like it. He's getting a lot of 5s and 6s in the chat right now.
This is a very classic caper. I feel like people have been doing this for hundreds, if not thousands of years, trying to steal treasure. So it's like a nice
you're right. The treasure steal is sort of tried and true. He has agreed to pay for these treasure coins that he jacked. He's going to pay $53,750 to cover the treasure coins being sold by a resident of Bay Point in the Lower Keys. You know the Florida area well. Those who do will appreciate that.
Lots of commenters saying that he should have a pirate hat along with
he should. That is such a good call. Absolutely should have a pirate hat. There was an agreement to a wire transfer in August, just so if you're curious, and no money was ever transferred. They agreed to this wire transfer. There appeared to be a bank transfer because there was one of those photos. Let me show you. I sent it here. I screenshotted it. But, of course, it's all phonied up. The victim then learned that he, Smith, who you're seeing here, used a fake name during the sale negotiations, gave him a fake bank account and tracking trace number. It's all fake, of course, and a fake credit card number. And warrants then later obtained for Smith's arrest, and he was booked into jail. And so that's how the whole thing went down. Ultimately, he is going to have to pay it all back. So
good day, sir.
Exactly. The Florida man finally hiding in the attic discovers that's not the best place to hide from police officers and the law. So you think the attic feels so good as a hiding place until it doesn't feel so good. Guy attempting to evade arrest, hiding in the attic of his Palm Coast home. Where could he be? Michael Allison, there he is. He was wanted on a felony violation of probation warrant and unlawful possession of a controlled substance and driving without a suspended license. That is the deadly trio. And
He looks
congratulations.
pretty happy.
Yeah. He seems very happy. Seems a little underslept.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, which I can understand. I have an underslept look typically. Wes says he kind of cute. Give him a 9. Teacher Lori gives him an 8. Ren with an 8. I think he is a cute guy, young guy. What are you going to give him, Kim?
I'm going to give him a 7.5.
All right, there it is,
Yeah.
a 7.5. Deputy said they saw him go into the house on Piedmont Drive, knocked on the door and on the windows. They announced themselves and why they were at his house. And after knocking multiple times, the sheriff's office said deputies entered the home in search of this guy. Well, they look around, and deputies see that he's hiding in the attic. And again, it's a
wild idea, but it just might work.
Well, it's not even that wild an idea, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of like a pretty, but where are you going to hide? So they asked him to come down, and eventually did come down 30 minutes later. And he was extremely dehydrated, they said. 37 years old, treated at a hospital for dehydration, and then taken to county jail.
Good day, sir!
Right, in the end, the law always wins. And so, my friends, we have reached a decision point. I will remind you of the stories you've just heard, and you must decide on. We don't want to do it. It's in the bylaws of the show to decide on a favorite. The 7-foot alligator biting the elderly woman. She was walking her dog. She tosses the dog, but gets chomped, leg and hand, by the 7-foot alligator. The Florida guy who was keeping 2 alligators in his backyard pool, other bad stuff with reptiles found on his property, he was arrested. The Florida guy accused of stealing Spanish treasure coins in an interesting and detailed scheme. He got away with $50,000 worth, but ultimately nabbed and will have to pay the whole thing back. And finally, the Florida guy hiding from the authorities. He had warrants out for all of these different things, and violation of probation is what brought police officers and authorities to his door. Ultimately, he hid in a place no one would ever think of looking, until they'd spent about 5 minutes looking everywhere else, and then they'd look, of course, in the attic, and he was arrested. We must pick a favorite, and we'll start with you, Kim. What do you think?
I have to go with, I think it's Our Lady, who was, smartly threw the dog and got chomped in the leg. Alligator old lady.
Yeah, alligator old lady. Albert, what leads in the chat? What was the vote?
I titled it Gator, but a lot of better options in the chat. They're calling her Granny Gator. So Granny Gator.
Granny Gator, nice.
Yeah.
That's
Granny
strong.
Gator's up 71%. It's running away with the vote.
Wow.
It's easy to go there. I'm gonna go with my sports side of the story. The Spanish treasure, a true Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Oh, very good, Albert.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't even
Tampa
think
Bay
of that.
Buccaneer. I love
tie-in.
the classic caper. So
For me, I go right with the mainstream. Lady walking her dog past a sign that says, "Watch out for alligators." She takes her and her little dog close to the pond and then realizes that she's going to get chomped. It's a story as old as time, and I go with
also
that.
had the sunglasses on in the hospital. Very strong.
Yes,
She had
you're right. Sunglasses in the
on.
hospital. Very, very strong. Good point. Thank you all for joining us for this Friday's edition of Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
What a great show is still ahead.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We're going to get into our end of the week conversation about politics with Michael Shure in just a couple of minutes. Before we do, We're going to get to Kim's news. I want to update the fire situation in California. It's super serious, and it's the first thing I looked at this morning, and it's something that worries me constantly, being a Californian, and just when we look at the way the environment is changing. And I wanted to comment on one thing. Someone, I think they said it in a live chat yesterday, or maybe they said it in comments after. I said, we haven't even reached the heart of the fire season in California yet. And they said, what are you talking about? It's September and there are fires burning. What do you mean we're not in the heart of it? What are you talking about? Well, here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that Santa Ana winds will supercharge any fire, and they have not begun in earnest. And sometimes you get an early Santa Ana season, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the Santa Anas don't show up as prominently as they do seasonally. But generally, if you just look back at the season of the fall, that is where Santa Anas get cranked up. And I don't care how many firefighters you have. I don't care how many helicopters you have dropping water. The winds, there's no beating back those fires once they get going. So that's what I meant when I said the heart of the fire season hasn't really begun. I mean, obviously, this is a conflagration of immense size, right? I mean, I'm just looking at one right now, but there are 3 or 4 burning in California. Kim will give us an update. And all I was saying is the fires that have still to come, I dread the future and worry about the future. So maybe that's what I was talking about. So I'm just, because you queried me about it, that's the answer. Smash the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
Kim's news, and we continue with politics with Michael Shure next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. And we will begin with Donald Trump, because a Georgia judge is dismissing 2 charges in the former president's election interference case. Yesterday, Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee ruled prosecutors did not have the authority to bring those charges against Trump, which are related to his alleged filing false documents in a federal court. McAfee is allowing the rest of the case to move forward, including 8 charges against Trump. Meanwhile, Trump is doubling down on claims that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are stealing people's pets and eating them. During a rally yesterday in Tucson, his first since the debate, Trump said the immigrants are taking the town's geese from the park and even walking off with pets. He claimed during the debate against Kamala Harris that immigrants in Springfield were eating dogs and cats. During the Tucson rally, Trump said Haitian immigrants were destroying Springfield residents' way of life. City officials in Springfield say there is absolutely no evidence of immigrants eating dogs or cats. If you're wondering what Springfield, Ohio looks like, there's a picture of this lovely place where city buildings and schools are still closed after a second day of bomb threats over the issue of immigration. Yesterday, City Hall buildings and some schools had to be evacuated due to an emailed threat involving the new Haitian population there. The city has turned into the latest flashpoint of immigration after about 20,000 Haitian migrants came to the city of about 60,000 residents. The former president says he's heard reports again of the pet stealing and eating. Local officials debunked and denying any such claims.
I mean, again, no reports of it. I mean, he's saying I've heard reports of it, no reports of it. And this,
I saw it on TV.
From the mayor of Trollville, who says, Haitians sacrifice cats for religious purposes, Mark. Don't believe me? Look it up. Chris, I'm not saying in some bizarro voodoo practice that they don't do it. I'm sure they do. But to suggest that it's an epidemic in this community in America is irresponsible and has real world effects. And I'll go even further. There's no evidence it's happening at all in this community. So don't tell me about some religious rite that goes on in Haiti. That's absolutely unfair to these legitimate immigrants who are in this community trying to shape a life for themselves and for their community. A life for themselves is the word I was looking for. But the point is, there are real world effects of this. So please, Mayor of Trollville, find a different subject to troll about. There's the fire. Are you muted, Kim? Yeah, you must be muted. Did you mute yourself during my little screed that I was doing against? How dare you?
I know, it's rude. Wildfires burning in Southern California slowing down now after temperatures decreased yesterday, but authorities say they still present a threat. 3 fires in the area burned a collective 110,000 acres, fueled by triple-digit heat, high winds, and dry vegetation. California's largest wildfire at the moment, the Bridge Fire, impacted communities in the San Gabriel Mountains. That's about 40 miles from Los Angeles. Here's how we stand now. Bridge Fire, more than 51,000 acres, 0% containment on that. The Line Fire, pictured here in the San Bernardino County area, has burned more than 37,000 acres, 21% containment. The Airport Fire, 5% contained, more than 23,000 acres. That's in Orange and Riverside counties. So there's still, I mean, the firefighters all over the place working to get a handle on these fires. And if you think the Santa Ana winds are going to flare up over the weekend, that could present a real problem. There are thousands of Boeing workers.
Are they saying the Santa Anas are going to
No, I thought you did.
No. That's not what I said. This is very important, and I'm glad I corrected. I mean, Kim, please.
Kim, how are you?
What I said is...
I blame you.
Well, okay. Maybe it's my fault for not being clear enough about it. I said the heart of the Santa Ana season will bring much bigger challenges to California. That's what I was saying. So when I was saying we're not in the heart of the fire season, I mean when the Santa Anas come, they will bring an even greater challenge. No. In fact, I don't know. I haven't seen a forecast, but I know, I'm sure if Santa Anas were going to kick up, I would know about it because we watch that stuff pretty closely. But no, that's what I meant. So
yeah, no, and I have no evidence that that's the case either. So
okay.
Thousands of Boeing workers are on strike now after rejecting a tentative contract that their union negotiated with the aerospace manufacturer. The massive work stoppage involving an estimated 33,000 employees is expected to stop production at the company's jet plants in the Puget Sound region of Washington and its parts plant in Portland, Oregon as well. So Boeing workers on strike. California's historic investment to catch thieves paying off. Law enforcement agencies in 55 cities and counties got a share of $267 million in October. It's now last October, it's being revealed that led to more than 6,900 arrests for retail and property crime in just 6 months.
Governor that.
Governor Newsom says the state is funding the police and reaping the results. There's a CHP task force also on track to surpass last year's numbers, making 884 arrests since January and recovering $7 million worth of stolen items.
Yeah.
Sayonara, sucker!
That's right. They're going to arrest you, and it's sayonara, sucker.
Hey, big news, and here's a surprise. Millions of Californians are bracing for their power bills to go up for the fourth time this year because state regulators approved PG&E's latest rate hike yesterday, which will cost customers an average of another $6 a month. The company says the money is needed to cover expenses paid during a slew of winter storms that caused widespread outages. Rates have soared 54% since PG&E exited bankruptcy in 2020.
I mean, that's outrageous. I mean, what can I say? I mean, 3 rate hikes in 1 year. It's insanity.
It's crazy.
And it's always greenlit by the CPUC.
Justin Timberlake is being sentenced to community service as part of his plea deal in his DWI case in New York. Outside of court today, Timberlake said he found himself in a position where he could have made a different decision, and he urged everyone not to get behind the wheel of a car if they've even had just one drink.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
Well, that's what he did. He apologized.
The pop superstar reached a plea deal that dropped the DWI charge, with him agreeing to plead guilty to a misdemeanor traffic violation.
He has to do a public service announcement, too, I think.
Was that what he was doing outside the courthouse?
No, I think he has to actually,
like a real one?
record a real public.
My bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it has to be more. It has to be more elaborate. It's not just outside the courthouse. No.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah. See you later,
Box
man.
checked.
I got to go to Turks Caicos for Christmas. Don't drink and drive.
A top-tier NFL quarterback is now facing calls to retire after his latest concussion. Dolphins signal caller Tua Tagovailoa, did I say it right?
Yeah. I'm going to bring in Michael Shure for Tua's last name pronunciation. Michael, how do you say Tua's last name?
I'd just say kudos to Kim. It's Tagovailoa.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, I really worked on that before the newscast. So
don't come on this show and give kudos to Kim.
Kim, how are you?
All right. Thank you, Michael.
You know what?
Go back to the green room, if you would, please.
I blame you.
All right, hang on.
Mr. Tagovailoa left last night's game against the Buffalo Bills in the second half after what a lot of people are calling a pretty brutal hit. The 26-year-old has suffered numerous concussions since entering the NFL after his title-winning career at Alabama. Several NFL legends are now urging him to quit. His coach, Mike McDaniel, said today he's worried about the human being. OpenAI officially releasing its first AI model with advanced reasoning capabilities. O1, it's called, which was known internally as Project Strawberry Q, thinks before responding and can outperform expert humans on PhD-level science questions. It solved 83% of international math Olympiad exam questions, while OpenAI's previous model got 13% correct. This one gets 83% correct. AI getting better and better.
I have been sitting on an AI story that I meant to share with you on Monday, but we've gotten so into politics, and again, we're a little late today, so I don't want to do it now. But I will tell you an AI story next week that will astound you. I mean, it speaks to the power of AI, not only to think, but to outsmart even the people who are programming it. And it may be cautionary. I'll share that with you next week. But I've been sitting on this story for a week now, and I definitely will share it with you. It's about the power of AI.
I think we're going to need to hear it. Yeah, this is some interesting times that we're living in. The box office update. Speak No Evil, off to a scary good start on this Friday the 13th at the box office. The film starring James McAvoy made $1.3 million from Thursday previews. It's expected to make between $10 and $13 million in its first weekend. Also new this week, the action film The Killer's Game, starring Dave Bautista. It's projected to bring in about $5 million, and Tim Burton's Beetlejuice is expected to take first place for the second straight week with $45 million. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. So they're still doing this super fun event. It's not too late for you to join in the I Love Lucy Grape Stomp. You can check it right off your bucket list. Dates for this include Sunday, September 15th, the 22nd, the 29th.
Yeah,
yes.
That's after this Sunday, 22nd. Go ahead, keep going.
So
following
all you
on the
need to do...
Tenuta calendar that I have here, the Tenuta Vineyards calendar.
Oh, what do you have?
No, I just see that these grape stomps are coming up. It's the next week. Next couple of weeks, they've got some big
grape stomps. And there's more of them in October. You arrive, you get a mimosa, you have a little snack, you cut the grapes off of the vine in the vineyard, smelling the fresh vineyard and the grapes.
I'd love to.
Which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
I'd love to have Michael Shure involved in that. The two of us stomping grapes together.
With your naked feet together.
For us,
I think this would be wonderful, you guys. Yeah. I'd like to see pictures of that. And then you have lunch.
Permit pictures of it, but all right.
And then you squish the grapes between your mantos. This is fantastic.
Oh my God.
All you have to do is call Rich at Tenuta Vineyards, 925-699-4576. Or you can email him, rich at tenutavineyards.com, and say smash it with your iron rod. Why would you say this?
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah, what does that do for you?
To get you 10% off across the board. 10% off of your grape stomping festivities. 10% off of any wine you have to order.
Love
It's
it.
fantastic. The whole thing is fantastic. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Our thanks to them for sponsoring this newscast, and I hope you have a great time at the I Love Lucy Grape Stomp. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's our big Friday show. Thanks to this guy for being so patient and waiting in the green room for us to get through all the madness. He has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's the brilliant Michael Shure. Hello, sir. And I want to acknowledge, before we get too deep in the conversation, Michael Albertin, thank you for a $50 super sticker. And wow, I think it's
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you, sir. Thank you very much for the super sticker. We're a crowd-funded show, Michael Shure. That's why I like to make a big deal out of the part of the crowd that does fund us. So,
and I get credit for. I mean, this was funded during my segment, as far as I know. So, this segment has brought in $50. That's
technically it did come in during Kim's news. I don't mean to.
Kim, how are you?
If that were true, it would have been announced then.
There you go. Wow, this is really. We'll have to litigate this.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
Yes, let's recess this. And but just back burner it. Michael Shure, I have mad respect for you. And I was reading a piece today from George Skelton in the LA Times. He writes a lot about Sacramento and about California politics. Essentially, the piece is about why Donald Trump's supporter base is unshakable, and that he can say all of these wild things that he says. He can tank the debate. It doesn't matter. Whereas the Democratic support is sort of dependent on issues and performance and this kind of thing. This is his general notion that the disenfranchised voters of the Central Valley and up in some of the northern counties of California feel as though the system's forgotten them. It is essentially the same thing that we were hearing in 2015-16. I'm wondering, I was reading the piece this morning and I thought, wow, I mean, if we're re-racking the same kind of issue-oriented and disenfranchised oriented group, could we end up with the same results?
Well, I mean, he's not wrong, but they are still a cult of personality, and I small c cult, right? I mean, I'm not labeling them as anything. I'm not qualified to do that, but there's been nothing that's happened that would shake them, and they enjoy being part of this club. So it's very different than a lot of politicians. And I would argue that, let's say Barack Obama were to have been able to run for a third term in 2016, right? He probably would have, if that were allowed, and he probably would have won. And people on the right would say, how can people stick with this person, right? Well, it's a lot of the time it's the alternative, right? These are people who have been trained almost to hate the liberals, to go after anything that is liberal. And who do they get those signals from? They get them from their quarterback, and that's Donald Trump for the time being. And so while I think Skelton's right, I'm not surprised by it. It's kind of the way political behavior has worked forever. The disenfranchised at the turn of the century were, they were behind different people than we have now, the different types of people than we see now. And so I think, to my belief, that it's not that surprising. I think what is surprising is that there are people that are starting to fringe away from that and pull themselves away from his tight base, who are going to either be less interested in the game because their lives didn't change drastically in those 4 years, though they've been told they have, and a lot of them parrot the fact that they have, or the idea that they have. I think that that's what's more surprising, is that it's splintering as much as it seems to be. And now, again, he could win the election, he could win the presidency back, and it would be because of everything that Skelton's saying. But I think that those people who are looking for something different, who don't like the establishment, who like to kick the boss in the nuts, as it were, those are the people that are going to be, with Trump, and they're going to be unshakable.
What I thought also striking about his comments and about statistical representations of where California voters sit is the fact that in the Central Valley, there are a lot of agricultural interests that are dependent on immigration labor to get that agriculture done. And so it's always interesting to me to see these communities that are far more represented by immigrants than many of the even urban communities that populate California, LA, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, and still have that pushback on this immigration issue because, 87% feel immigrants are a burden on California. When you add other issues like climate change and these things related to energy that affect California, they still put immigration above it all. And yet they are in that, bouillabaisse of California agriculture, which is so dependent on the ingredient of immigration.
Yeah, and it's interesting that a lot of them will find that one issue and stick with it. The reason that Republicans have always been successful in that part of the country, and if you just to put names to it, people like Kevin McCarthy, people like Devin Nunes, is because it's been anti-tax. Those people feel overburdened by land tax, property tax, water tax, all of that. And that's a lot of why they've been Republican for so long. But on issues of immigration, once you have a wedge issue, they're also looking at their towns and villages and the changing face of those. Eventually, it's going to be, majority Hispanic in those places, and many of them already are. And so it's the decision makers aren't going to be the white landowners, as it were, if history is repeating itself in America. And so I think that this is probably just a growing pain. But again, these are people who has the pitchforks? Literally, farmers do, right? And these are the people that are behind Trump now, the way they were behind William Jennings Bryan 100 years ago, the way they are behind the people that sort of push back. In a sense, they're a lot like Bernie Sanders. There's a populism that, in fact, that informs all of those candidacies and movements and different ways. So I think that the magic of Donald Trump is that he was able to seize upon it. The magic is that he is, in a way, has always been one of them, in that he was always excluded from the old boys club in New York. He was from Queens, New York, a borough that wasn't Manhattan at the time when all the money was being made in Manhattan. He was looked at as sort of, gaudy and brash, and he wasn't part of that network of wealthy people in New York, even though he was quite wealthy. And so he's the same person they are. And while he wouldn't want to hang out with any of the people or many of the people who support him, he certainly is able to tap into that because he's been on that side.
It's also the fact, as suggested here by political consultants like Mark Baldessari, is that how he says his last name, who is he was the chief pollster for this latest poll in California.
Well, it's amazing how much pronunciation I've been asked about.
I know, it's a very pronunciation heavy show today.
Yeah. And that's why Trump is having a really hard time.
Well, he was saying that for a lot of people who feel, again, not seen by government, not seen by whatever government, right, historically over the last decade and beyond, the supporting of Trump is like an FU. It gets attention, and all of a sudden they're seen. And this quote, a sizable portion feel the government is the problem, not the solution. They feel ignored. One way to get attention is to say, I'm for Trump. Listen to me. Interesting,
And very true. I mean, I've seen that on display all over the country, and it couldn't be more true and more correct and more spot on. It's also why I think once Trump is gone, many of them will fade back into the woodwork and not be a big part of the political conversation. Many will stay because they like where they are. It also explains J.D. Vance in a way. The gambit that they were making on Vance was that he could be someone who could take that baton and hold MAGA together, because that's what MAGA is. It's the people you just described, Mark, and Baldessari described. But Vance has proven that, well, maybe he can't. Maybe he doesn't have that magic, and very few do. Like over the years in American politics, very few have had the magic. Maybe Ronald Reagan had it. I wouldn't say that Bill Clinton he had some kind of a magic, but there wasn't a spell that was cast. And Trump is one of those people. When he is gone, it's a unique spell that he casts. And when he is gone, I feel like a lot of the people that follow him will leave the stage for a while, unless somebody with his charisma comes out.
I couldn't agree more when it comes to those things that quack like Trump, others who've tried the Trump act. Look at Ron DeSantis. He is the flavor of the month for a couple of months, and then he just doesn't have the same power charismatically or whatever. So I want to get to something that I was saying, and I wanted to see, and I promised everybody I would ask whether you agreed with me. This thing about Haitian immigrants and the focus on them and the doubling down on it, and they're eating our cats and dogs, and they're coming here by the millions. That's the jetliner line that he keeps going to. He used it in the debate, and then he goes to this Laurel Loomer hatched a conspiracy, or maybe it was a J.D. Vance hatched conspiracy that Laurel Loomer echoed, I suspect, in his head. However, the origins of the story got into the debate, the pets and their eating them thing is getting noisier, and they've doubled down on it. And here's the bad news part of that I was saying, and this is what I'm curious whether you agree. I was saying, yeah, it's silly, it's funny even as we look at it, so stupid. It has been debunked. It was debunked in the moment as when he mentioned it on stage, but it puts the immigration issue, even as awkwardly as it might put it on the front page, it puts it on the front page, and it puts it in the news cycle for yet another day. And the immigration issue they view as a winner, and it may be legitimately a winner for them. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wedge issue, and wedge issues in presidential campaigns always have success. They are always what the Republicans have typically done better than the Democrats. The Democrats right now look at Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision and abortion as their wedge issue here. The more it's on the front page, the more it's talked about, the more it puts people on the defensive. I think dismissing it and having your extremists be the ones who are echoing at that point is probably the best course of action for the Democrats. But yeah, it does have its effect in reminding people that this is what Republicans want to do, that there is an other at play here, and the other are these immigrants who eat pets and do strange things. But at its bottom line, it's that it's about other.
This from Mindy. Trump is ruining the lives of Haitian people right now. So wrong. Some are leaving the country because of Trump. Here in the red state of Pennsylvania, red part of Pennsylvania, I should say, from Miracle Seeker, they don't care if you see them. They have hate in their hearts. These are Trump supporters that a Miracle Seeker is talking about. This is in relation to being seen. They have hate in their hearts, and they want to vote for the one who they think will hurt others, even if it has a negative effect on them. Interesting. That sort of speaks to, go ahead.
I mean, that's a good point that the viewer listener,
Miracle Seeker
makes, because there is that silent part as well. Not everybody is this sort of flamboyant Trump, provocative type of supporter. It's just that he does appeal to those people, and there is definitely a sense that those people are the mouthpieces for him. But there are certainly people that are supporting him and will, and there are people that vote from hate. I don't think it's the majority of those voters, and I think there are people that are Republicans that know, and there are people that are conservative evangelicals that care about the single issues that make it so that none of it is all right, but each part of it is correct.
And this is from Phineas, and I disagree with this, but and I think you kind of were saying, no, you need to dismiss it and not indulge it too much. But he says, Mark and Michael, Harris should go to Springfield and hold a press conference to dispel these lies and racism. I don't think you should dignify it and elevate it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why he says that that's a good idea. If I were the campaign, I would sort of let it be what it is and not amplify it. And if I lost that argument, I would compromise and say that Walz should go there and not Harris. I think that you want to keep the nominee, the dignity of the conversation if you're the nominee. So it's not not something that I would do. I wouldn't even send a surrogate, but I see why someone would say, yeah, let's show that this is right. I don't know how you win that argument, right? Because the people that believe it's ridiculous believe it's ridiculous. The people who don't are like, oh, now they're really talking about this, really?
Right, exactly. My next door neighbor, says Brian, has a $200 Trump flag flying in his yard every day. Wow. I mean, I feel like you've overpaid for a Trump flag if you've paid $200.
Especially since it was likely made in China.
Yeah, it's made in China. And I hope they threw in a Bible and one of those playing cards with the flag. So you were so kind to join us the day after the debate. I wonder if you could now, with a couple of days past the debate and dust settling, give us some thoughts on how the race is now taking on a kind of texture post-debate and how you think it might unfold.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close race before the debate. It was a close race after the debate. I think a lot of Democrats were warmed by what they saw, in that they saw a candidate who they hadn't really seen out there. It's a little bit of what we talked about on Wednesday. Hadn't really seen, and while they supported her because they're anti-Trump and they're members of the Democratic Party, they hadn't seen her in action. And I think that everyone was kind of relieved. I mean, you have to think of the Democratic electorate as an electorate that at the end of June saw their nominee and were panicked. And I think this was just kind of like, this was like eating an edible for a lot of Democrats the other night. And I think it was calming. But there's still work to be done. And the election is still close. And the battleground states didn't just become not battleground because the nominee did well in a debate. I think what it did do, though, is there's a bit of confidence. There was confidence in the Democratic National Convention because they had a nominee and they were united. Then they come out of it. Now there's confidence because this person could stand up to Donald Trump. But she also has to win in states, and she has to be able to do things that keep that coalition together. But I think that, I would say that it remains good. And I think that you go for what it isn't, right? It remains good because it wasn't bad. We're not talking about, oh God, Kamala Harris blew this and couldn't answer that and stumbled on this and seemed strange and wasn't loud and all the things that you could pick apart a candidate for in a debate. No, we're not talking about that now. Right? We're talking about, the battleground states again. We're talking about issues and we're talking about crazy, weird things that the other person said. So in and of itself, that's a victory too.
The other thing that the Harris people are saying is that she's going to start doing more sit-down interviews with local media in these battleground states. So she is going to get out in these interview situations. And so far, she's only done the national television interview sit down, but that they're saying will put her out there in ways that she's not out there right now.
No, it's super important, and you want to get on the air in those states, but also they're all when you're the nominee of the party within 50 or 60 days of the election, every interview you do is national, right? I mean, so you're sitting down with the local station in Detroit, Michigan, right, with battleground state. Whoever does that interview, it's going to go all over the country and probably all over the world. So every mistake will be amplified, and every sort of forceful and provocative thing that person says is going to be amplified. So I think they all become national, but it's a good thing. And I think that that's part of the swagger and the confidence that come out of doing well at a debate. Hey, I can ride this bicycle without the training wheels.
They have many surrogates, both top of ticket people do. Trump has them and Harris has them. And the surrogate that is, to me, just an extraordinary addition to the Trump game is one that we've touched on before, and that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
So after the debate, he went on Fox News and he said, Harris clearly won the debate. And stick with it, though, because he's very sharp, in prosecuting a negative kind of view of Harris. Harris clearly won the debate in terms of her delivery, her polish, her organization, and her preparation. But he said the substance of her message will collapse in less structured settings. So, again, he's looking for ways to, assail her work. But there's a lot of that. Wait till you learn more about her,
Right. With surrogates like these, who needs enemies? I don't know. Look, my feeling about RFK Jr. is that he doesn't really have a constituency, and any constituency he had was a none of the above constituency. And now that he's with one of the above, I think he has lost a lot of the power and the compelling part of him that he had prior to his joining the Trump campaign in the way he has. So I don't see him as being a factor. He is one surrogate, but he matters very little now. I think what matters is his not being on the ballot in places where Donald Trump didn't want him on the ballot. So they'll suffer whatever he says because it doesn't really impact very much.
And of course, there are all of these surrogates, Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard, and they all have their little specialty lanes. Gabbard is in the military. And
Gabbard was also leading his debate prep, so I don't know how well.
Yeah, oops, right. But Gates says that Harris has been wrapped in bubble wrap for the entire. Now you're going to actually see her get bumped around.
Well, the bubble wrap came off, Representative Gates. It came off on Tuesday night in Philadelphia. So I don't think that that's a great persuasive way of talking about things because, in fact, she was unprotected with no body armor or anything. She was just there alone on the stage with her opponent and did quite well, which is why I think, as you just said, Mark, she's going to be doing all these interviews. She's comfortable in that space now.
Did I, I'm going to let you go in 1 second. Albert, did I send to you, I think, Harris and the Democratic Party's best surrogate? Or certainly, if he's not the best surrogate, it's a photo finish. And that's Pete Buttigieg. Did I send you the Pete Buttigieg stuff, Albert, or not?
You did. Let me cue
I think
it
that
up.
I think that we should talk about one of her inadvertent surrogates, which is Taylor Swift, too, and not make light of it. What a celebrity! I hate celebrity endorsements. I don't care about the celebrities, and I'll get angry with a celebrity who endorses for seemingly no reason, or makes their whole celebrity about their endorsement. But the people that then vote, register to vote because somebody like Taylor Swift is in there, that becomes really important. And there have been apparently tens and tens of thousands of younger voters who have registered since she came out with her endorsement. There's nothing like an endorsement that gets people who were not registered to vote to register to vote.
Right. That is the distinction. That it's not just it's the new voters, if you want to think of it that way. Now,
Exactly. Great. Bruce Springsteen's a Democrat, and he'll play on the night before election in the middle of the street in Philadelphia. All the power to him, and it's a great, kumbaya moment for Democrats. But what does that matter, right? Yeah, maybe some Bruce people will vote for it, but tens of thousands of new registered voters in an election that cumulatively could be decided by 50,000 votes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's something. And she didn't say vote for Kamala Harris. She said, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. You vote for the candidate that you feel,
somewhat implicit, though.
Yeah, right. I get it. Wisconsin voter registration bumps by 1,300 after Taylor Swift's Harris endorsement. Yeah. As you say, with thin margins, it might really throw it. I think I don't have time to play Pete Buttigieg, but we'll play it next time. But he's just I find him to be a real compelling surrogate. He does a nice job.
Totally agree. And he also goes into what is considered enemy territory and doesn't care about who he's speaking to in an interview, whether it's Fox or MSNBC. He'll go anywhere and talk about what he wants to talk about. And he's a brilliant speaker. But I wasn't meaning to demean his importance as a surrogate. Of course, he's an important surrogate.
But he does shrink in terms of importance, as anyone would, next to the great Taylor Swift. Yeah. You can find Michael across the great web, work on TYT, etc. But we love him here when he is so generous to stop through. Thoughts on the Niners quickly?
A good win. They shouldn't have let that last touchdown across. And it was good to see Jordan Mason do well. They're 1-0. They play the Vikings. Onward.
There you have it. Michael, thank you. Great seeing you, my friend. Look forward to next week. Michael Shure.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. Great to hear Mark appreciate Pete Buttigieg after trashing him viciously in 2020. LJ is right. I did trash Pete Buttigieg at the time. Trash might overstate it, but I did point out that I didn't support Pete Buttigieg. I don't know if it was 2020. Maybe it was 2020 because he was in that rugby scrum of Democrats going for top of ticket. So you're right, LJ. Maybe I did, but I think his value as a surrogate cannot be overstated. He's remarkable in how effective he is as a spokesperson for things that are important, and also as was noted, for him going in, behind enemy lines, if you want to think of it that way, and making really compelling cases for everything he talks about. San Jose Label Inc., what about you? Thanks for the buck you threw.
Big shout out.
Yeah. And West Theory, always with us,
Big
$5 super sticker. We are a crowd-funded show. And at the very beginning of this show, we came over from radio. We had a successful talk radio show on KGO Radio. We had to, there's a reason 45 stays off Univision and Telemundo. Yeah, there you go. No
Big
contender
shout out.
says it straight. Yeah. I don't see Donald Trump going to Telemundo anytime soon. But we came over here. We had to really put the bite on you to support us, and we had to do it a lot. And it's really hard to ask for money. Coming from a broadcast background, I'm used to doing a show, worrying about content, and not asking you for money. But and I'll get to Trevor in a minute. What I am going to say is that the lifeblood of the show is the Patreon and PayPal support that we get on an ongoing basis every month, and then those who come through every day or frequently and give us super stickers and super chats. All those things help sustain this show. This is basically an NPR PBS model, which is sort of, if you like this show, if you get something from it, and you can support the show. And there are click-throughs to Patreon and PayPal under all of our videos. And there's also a website, themarkthompsonshow.com. And there are click-throughs there as well. So we appreciate all of you who come through with the super sticker, super chats. And the Patreon and PayPal supporters really let us plan from a payroll standpoint. So we appreciate that as well. Now, I didn't mean to give short shrift to Trevor. Sorry for all the caps, Kim, but I need to shout, Stephen Miller is a waste of oxygen, he says. Wow. It's a very powerful and emphatic.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, very impressive from Trevor Starr in Hollywood. Has Loomer checked MTG on her Jewish comments or even denied the Holocaust? Selective conspiracy rage, says No Contendo. Friction between Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, and Nick Fuentes. Yeah, it's true.
Big shout out.
Thank you, No Contendo. There is trouble in MAGA land, in the right-wing doposphere that is the wild, hot mic, fire-breathing dragon of hate that is those right-wingers. They are going after each other. Spencer Jaffe with the $2 super
Big
sticker.
shout out.
Thank you for that. All right, let me... $5 super chat from No Contender says, history repeats, post-slavery rich manipulated poor whites against sharecroppers. Wallace against Bull Connors in the 60s, now Trump in 24. The book is White Fear. You win. I haven't read the book, and so I got the first part of that, but the second part dealt with some specifics. Honestly, I just can't weigh in on it. I'm sorry, I'm not literate enough in that one area, but maybe given time, I could. Sometimes we'll get off the air in 15 minutes later. I go, oh, I get what he's talking about. So pardon me if that falls into that category. Love your show, and I'm proud to be a supporter. Keep up the good work, says Delette. Come on right now.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Delette. Buttigieg is terrific. Love seeing him on CNN. So intelligent. He is so intelligent. It's true. My Pete is so intelligent. I love him. And that's how I imagine his mother sounding as she watches him. You asked for money, Mark? Well, here you go. Glad you asked. Thanks for another awesome week of outstanding guests and fun. I blame you.
Big shout out.
Luis says for $4.99.
I blame you.
Yes, there you go. Albert, I think we have to bring Snider on. Otherwise, life is gonna get really tough to deal with.
He's waiting in the green room right now.
Well, I do love to make him wait, though. I don't know if I could make him wait a little longer.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if I could make him wait a little longer. What else could I make him wait for doing something else? I can't make it look like I'm making him wait.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
I could cook up maybe like a lawn disorder, impromptu.
What's that commission?
Maybe we could do impromptu segments,
That would really be cruel. Oh,
could do a
and
little
that's
more
why it would be
news.
delicious. Yeah, no more. I don't know. I don't think I can do it. So I'll.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, on Fridays, this guy comes through. He knows it all. I mean, the comic book movies, the Marvel universe, the DC universe, some obscure Korean film that he's found at a festival. He is amazing. I don't know how he takes in all the content. A great writer, a great mind on media. How about it for a man who comes and goes on a rainbow? He is the magnificent Michael Snider, the culture blaster. What's up, Michael?
Oh, Mark, you demean yourself with your petty vendetta against me, your desire to make me uneasy, uncomfortable, maybe even unwilling to, deliver the goods on a Friday. I could never be like that. I could never. But I understand this is the nature of things. And hey, after all, it's Friday the 13th. What else could I expect? I mean,
What?
luck, good and bad, is kind of tricky and even a bit subjective. By the way, I'm back at my place in San Francisco for a bit. And though I love the city, I'm not sure whether being back is a good luck thing or a bad luck thing, considering all the San Francisco bashing being done by the right wing. I do want to deliver a public service message about Friday the 13th. If a black cat crosses your path today, please don't eat it. That's all. I just wanted to get that out there.
Wow. Look at you with a special...
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Yeah, I really do. I want to grace you with this word from nutritionist Liz. She is the official nutritionist of this show. And she says, for Michael Snider, she contributes $5 to the show today. And she says, Michael Snider always answers my IG messages and concepts of humor, even a dad joke, she says. Also for Mark's hair, my hair, you can't see it probably, but it's a little too vertical today. Anyway, Michael, you brought nutritionist Liz in with some money. So thank you for that. And
Big
a big
shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm flattered and honored. Thanks, Liz. I think it's important that we get down to business, considering all the time already frittered away.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Let's get into
it. All right.
Come on, let's get into it. By the way, hi, Kim, wherever you are. I know you're out there. I know
Kim
you're paying
is,
attention.
She's very tough. She's very tough. Kim is managing the hate room or chat room, as it's often called. She's she's in the lifeguard chair.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. So.
Okay, so it is Friday the 13th, which is a scary day, and I do think that we should lead with a movie that has horror elements in it. There seems to be one a week, and I actually wrote a column about it that's currently in the Voice of San Francisco called Scare and Scare Alike. But I would actually suggest that people check that out if they can at thevoicesf.org. But let's talk about Speak No Evil. So a couple of years ago, I saw a movie by Danish filmmaker Christian Tafdrup. It's one of those Danish names, Tafdrup. And the movie was called Speak No Evil. And I knew nothing about it prior to watching it. And it turned out to be a terrifying examination of the awful yet believable events that occur after two families, one Danish and the other Dutch, meet while on vacation. So this utterly chilling 2022 movie filled me with such dread that after it was over, I needed to calm down. So I went to YouTube and watched an old episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I just had to do something because I was that rattled by the film. Okay, so now Speak No Evil has been remade as an Anglo-American production with a family of 3 from the UK and a family of 3 from the US meeting during a sunny Mediterranean holiday. So the British dad and mom are played by James McAvoy, Professor X himself from, X-Men First Class and such, and Irish actress Eiling Franciosi, who was wonderful in God's Creatures and stop motion. She's a terrific actress. And the characters have a mute prepubescent son. The American dad and mom, played by Scoot McNair and Mackenzie Davis, have kind of a nervous prepubescent daughter. So in a bit of a switch, the Brits are aggressively jovial while the Yanks are reserved and polite. I mean, it's kind of like turning our, stereotypes on their heads, but it works. After the vacation ends, the Americans return to London, where the parents had moved for work, and in short order, the Brits invite them for a weekend getaway at their remote country home, and the fun begins. I was a little uneasy when I saw the trailer for the remake, since it appears to reveal a couple significant aspects of the characters and the plot that made my skin crawl when I saw the Danish version of this thing. And even the poster suggests that maybe the McAvoy character isn't the nicest guy on the block. But in any event, it turns out that the new Speak No Evil also changes important elements of the third act of the original, and not necessarily for the better. That said, Black Mirror veteran James Watkins wrote and directed the remake, and it's a sturdy suspense movie, even if it sort of cops out on the brutally effective way the original plays out. Plus, McAvoy is compelling throughout, and he is well supported by Franciosi, McNair, and Davis. And plus, the kid actors, especially Alex West Leffler as the American daughter, are very, very good. So, if you haven't seen the original, I recommend seeing it, unless you're afraid of subtitles. Yeah, some of it's in English. And if that's the case, see the new one. And if you have seen the Danish version, you might be let down by the new one, although it's not bad at all on its own terms. Speak No Evil in theaters right now.
Very interesting review, because you sort of really like the first one and sort of like the second one. And so if you haven't seen the first one, you're not comparing the second one to the first one. And as a result, you end up with even a more positive view of the second one. Would that be a way to summarize it?
That's fair. I just feel like the first one is really one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And it's not gory, really. It's just
psychological horror.
To the max. And, it's part of that genre that has developed over the past 10 years or so, or at least has been labeled, called elevated horror. And some of those movies are grisly, but the original Speak No Evil is not. And, again, if you like this sort of film and you haven't seen the first and you don't want to seek it out, watch the new one. I think, you'll be entertained, and, that surge of adrenaline when things go wrong on the big screen that kind of is an upper in a way. You'll get plenty of that.
Kim?
It's fascinating to me that, Michael, you can say you liked a movie when admittedly you had to go find a way to soothe yourself afterward. Like, it was so disturbing to you that you had to go watch children's programming. How can you like a movie that seeps into your psyche this way?
Yeah, Michael.
Hey,
yeah.
Talk to Nikki Maduro about it. She'll explain the charge you get. Again, it's an adrenaline rush. The column is basically about how horror movies appeal to us and the why and the how. And I do believe that little jolt that people get, let's say a scare, fear, and a thrill are not that far removed. It's kind of like going on a roller coaster, Kim. And I don't want to overstate the case. I really didn't watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I just came up with that for effect. So,
hey, by the way, Cassandra says in the chat, literally using the words that you've used. I mean, but she used them before you used them. It's the emotional roller coaster, Kim. She described it the same way.
Her name is Cassandra. Of course, she predicted what I was going to say.
Big shout out.
Okay, let's go to an action film. Okay, the bullet-headed former wrestler turned action star Dave Bautista has won so many fans in projects like Guardians of the Galaxy, where he plays Drax the Destroyer. He's like a funny, and violent and heroic character in those movies. And now he's starring in a tailor-made action comedy vehicle, The Killer's Game, and it's more action and violence than comedy, but he's actually given a love story as part of the plot, and that's sort of comedic in a way, isn't it? He's a stretch as a romantic lead, let's put it that way. But pairing him with the lithe, athletic Sophia Boutella, who was an assassin herself in Kingsman, and here as a ballerina that he adores, almost works. It almost makes it work. Anyway, the situation is as such. High-end assassin Joe Flood, played, of course, by Bautista, gets diagnosed with a terminal disease, so he decides to choose his method of suicide, taking out a hit on himself. So he goes to, some hotshot, hitman broker and says, here's all this money, hire someone efficient, and let's get it done. And unfortunately, since the contract is up for the highest bidder, every killer comes out of the woodwork and starts going after him. And rather than just accept his death, he learns that his girlfriend is caught in the crossfire. He doesn't want her to be hurt, so he goes on the offensive, and he's going to take care of those who are coming after him and thus endangering the girl. So, seeing him squeezed into a tuxedo in one kind of James Bondian part is kind of comical. Okay, do you know who Broderick Crawford is? The burly guy that starred on Highway Patrol on TV back in the black and white days. This is like imagining. It's like imagining Broderick Crawford as a leading man. It's kind of nuts in that regard. But,
really? He's kind of handsome in his own way. He's a big dude, no?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's certainly, if you're talking about Bautista, he's incredibly likable.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
I got to say, it's action sequences are well directed by J.J. Perry. The script is not really great. And ultimately, it just exists to watch Dave Bautista take out these people who are coming after him. And so it's a little flimsy in that regard. But that phrase, chewing gum for the mind, right? Well,
yeah, sure. So in that spirit, let me just understand something from a plot standpoint. He wants to off himself. He sets in motion the mechanism to off himself, then realizing, wait, his girlfriend or, girlfriend to be, whatever it is, might be involved might be in some jeopardy. He undoes or tries to undo something that he's already set in motion. Is that basically it?
Yes, he does. And there's also another plot point that motivates him to try to stop what's going on. There's all these sort of stereotypical types of assassins, various nationalities and attitudes, and there's a parade of them. It's very cartoonish in that regard. I mean, I was grudgingly entertained. There's another pull quote for your poster. I was grudgingly entertained. Michael Snider, The Mark Thompson Show.
What?
But among the killers, by the way, Terry Crews is pretty entertaining. Pom Clementif, also from Guardians of the Galaxy, she plays Mantis, is in it. And his handler broker is played by Ben Kingsley. And Ben is never going to give a bad performance, so he's rather charming. And just for you, sci-fi and genre fans, Alex Kingston, River Song from the Doctor Who series, and also a veteran of ER, plays Kingsley's wife. And it's fun watching while it's happening, but there's really nothing to it.
Wow. Okay. Killer's Game, and that's in theaters. The Killer's Game.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to something a little more down to earth and yet a little fantastical. And I know you're not going to like this. I don't want this to jeopardize your earnings, Mark, but the movie is called My Old Ass. And it is kind of a comedy. It's like a dramedy, and it's about a young girl, a young Canadian girl, well played by Maisie Stella, who's a fresh face. I've never seen her before. She plays Elliot. And she's, pansexual and having a great time and about to go off to college. And she's partying with her girlfriends in, kind of little, I guess, a lakeside getaway. And they go on a little kind of camping trip and all take mushrooms, she and her two girlfriends. And while on mushrooms, she meets her older self, played by Aubrey Plaza. Now, whether this is a hallucination or a manifestation of, the mushrooms or her frazzled mental state at the idea of her life changing on a university level, it's not really clear. So the rules that are at play here are fuzzy, but the performances are really lovely. And in the context of the story, her older self warns her against getting involved with a guy. And of course, she meets the guy shortly thereafter. The guy is working on her father's cranberry farm up there in Canada, and they start kind of hanging out, and she is drawn to him. And this could be good or good. It might be bad, but we do know that Aubrey Plaza is always reliable as a comedic actress. This Maisie Stella is pretty damn wonderful, and it's got a sweetness to it and a humanity to it. It's the absolute antithesis of these other two movies in that regard. It's directed and written by Megan Park, who is a pretty accomplished young actress. And as this sort of stuff goes, it's okay. I just had a little problem with some of the, internal logic of the story. And also, we really don't see enough Aubrey Plaza, but there's a charm to it. I think, Kim, this is a movie I think you'd really enjoy, not only because it's woman-centric, but because it has that kind of lightness and sweetness and humanity. It is, in fact, in theaters.
Now, when you say that, you think because Kim has that, or because Kim lacks that, and so she might appreciate it?
Must you turn this around and make me the bad guy? Kim
I'm just saying.
Kim, how are you?
All right.
Are you trying to say that I have an old ass? Is that what you're trying to say?
I blame you.
You're kind and good-hearted. We can't see your ass, so I can't really weigh in on it.
Wow. Really,
Anyway,
but I think that's sweet that you've called out Kim as someone who would enjoy the charm and warmth of this movie.
Yeah.
Well, right, because she strikes me as someone who has a big heart and also cares for other people. And we see this young woman's struggle and blossoming, and that stuff I think would resonate with Kim and many, many others. So it is in select theaters, and
Is this a movie that you could show a teenage girl, or is this
absolutely? Does she know what the word ass means?
I think so.
Okay, it's kind of
they get really high on mushrooms. Remember, that's apparently a plot point early on. So just
where are weed smokers at?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Honestly, Kim, you just have to do a brief parental guidance about the mushrooms, and then you can sit down and watch this thing.
Stay at home and get baked.
I believe it's going to play well on video. So even if you can't make it to one of the select theaters where it's playing this weekend, it will soon be available elsewhere.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you have it. So that's the
No.
Well, Simon says no, but Snyder says yes. What would you like to get to next? Oh, great Culture Blaster.
Let's wrap up with one final feature film cover, and that would be the 4:30 movie, which is a teen rom-com, I guess with echoes of the John Hughes sorts of movies, but it's the work of writer-director Kevin Smith, who we all know from Clerks, and I guess he did Mallrats. He's done a number of films, and he's well loved by many for playing Silent Bob. Or is that what?
Sure.
Yeah, the Jay and Silent Bob team with Jason Mewes, and he's even shown up recently in that '90s show as Silent Bob, and so he's kind of working that. But he is a writer-director, and he has his little mini empire, and he seems to work well with young actors. And this is a very, very personal movie from all I can tell. It's about a kid growing up enamored of movies and wanting to be a writer and maybe not even thinking about being a director as yet. And he is smitten with a local girl, and he wants to take her to a matinee along with his two idiot buddies. He has been crushing on this girl for a year, and he decides he's going to make the big leap, and they make a date to see the movie. And this is all about the misadventures of the four of them at the movie theater that afternoon into the evening. And it's set in 1986, so there are a couple needle drops that are very much of the era. These three 16-year-old buddies they wear on you a little bit. There's something kind of familiar and trite and lowbrow about some of what goes on. There are a few jokes, that work, and the kids have a certain measure of charm, but I don't know. It's a bit much. And I do know that the biographical aspects of this coming of age story are true to Kevin Smith's experience. And, he does lean on some talented friends in supporting roles. Ken Jeong he basically steals the film as the theater manager who basically can't stand the kids. And the young actors who play the trio of best buddies and the object of one of their affections, they're all quite good. Austin Zajur, Nick Carrillo, and I don't know. They're good. But what really keeps the movie interesting for me is the parade of cameos that include Diedrich Bader as a kind of a sci-fi hero. On one of the movie trailers they're watching. And in fact, I'll tell you what, the movie trailers seem so much more interesting than the story ultimately, that I was like, Kevin Smith, why don't you make one of these idiot movies? Jason Biggs is in this thing. Rosario Dawson, Rachel Dratch plays one of the mothers of the teens. You also get Jason Lee, Justin Long, and obviously, of course, Jason Mewes has to show up. And Kate Micucci plays the mother of the girl. And, if you like Kate Micucci, she does her thing. There was so little to it. It's so evanescent, it's almost disappeared from my memory, and I watched it yesterday.
Wow. So on the one hand, it's deeply personal for Kevin Smith, but it evaporates overnight for you.
Yeah, I mean, you got Adam Pally, Sam Richardson, Genesis Rodriguez. He pulls out the stops and brings in some talented people for cameos, and they get their moments, and their moments are, oh, it's that person, and that was kind of amusing, but it didn't amount to very much. It doesn't have the big-hearted, staying power of a John Hughes movie when he was at his best. But I know
they
it's
credit
that
on
kind
the
of film.
poster music by Bear McCreary. I wonder why Bear McCreary is a film and television, produces film and television scores at high levels, but I wonder why he gets that breakout credit like that on the movie poster. Interesting.
You got me. He wrote a couple of songs that are original for the film, I guess. I don't know.
I see.
They were not particularly memorable as far as I can tell.
Michael did not like this movie particularly.
I think his theme to The Walking Dead. I'm still humming that, but I don't know about the songs in this film.
So that's the dud in the crew. Go ahead.
Yeah, not terrible. Yeah, again, not terrible. Michael Snider, The Mark Thompson Show. I mean, it gets to the point that I go beyond damning with faint praise. I'm just plain damning,
Yeah, good. Well, I know we have to wrap up, but let me just review your reviews.
By all means.
The 4:30 movie, you just heard about it. Kevin McCreary is the Bear McCreary is the music guy. I don't understand why he got this, but Kevin Smith is the director, writer, and the guy who put this all together. And Michael says, hey, it's a really cool cast, and it's cool to see all these people swim through this project, but he just felt as though there was no there, that it just didn't really ever land in a way that mattered to him. Wouldn't that be a fair way to put it, Culture Blaster?
Yeah. I mean, it's well-meaning. I don't have an axe to grind with Kevin Smith, but it just was not a great film. He's done better work that's going to basically
have more staying power.
linger. It's going to linger, yeah.
Tom says evanescent would be the ding word that you for the day.
That was
My
for Tom's
Old
benefit.
Ass was the project involving these two women you see on the poster, Maisie Stella and Aubrey Plaza. There's a charm to it. There is a conceit, which is the premise, meaning the premise that the younger Maisie Stella meets the older, and on this kind of hallucinogenic experience is warned about an guy that she's going to meet, an older man. And she does meet him. And,
not that much older, but yes.
Oh, I
you're
thought my old ass referred to the...
No, it's actually... it's the reference of the younger version thinking of the older version.
I see. Okay. Well, then in that case, strike the older thing. But anyway, he liked it. He says there's a charm to it, and he recommends it for Kim and Kim's daughter as well. The Killer's Game. Dave Bautista's foray into this world of what will be action and I guess some violence. He's a killer, you see, and he's... one way or another, he's fed up with his own life and orders a hit on himself. As a hitman, ordering a hit on himself, and then he realizes, wait, but he has a love interest who is also somehow embroiled in all of this. He has to undo the hit that he had just done.
Well, he's been diagnosed with a terminal disease. He wants to go out on his own terms.
Sure.
But
there is... every manner of speculation of complication is the word I was looking for.
Yes, there's a twist to things. Yes,
there is a twist.
That's pure speculation.
That's pure complication, is what it is. And Dave Bautista, Michael Snider, the Culture Blaster, says, nah, don't quite buy him as a leading man romantically. They kind of try a couple of James Bond slick and upscale looks to him. I don't know. Everybody loves Dave Bautista, of course, but
oh yeah, dude, I do. But I was entertained, but I just didn't think there was a lot to it. Bang, bang, bang,
bang, bang, bang. There you have it. It is in theaters. Speak No Evil is where we started. He reminds us of a movie that I'm sure very few of us saw, which was the first Speak No Evil. He is saying that was the real Speak No Evil that you must see. But if you haven't seen that, then you won't be struck by what he was struck by, which is that this one isn't as good as the first one. But again, if you haven't seen the first one, you don't need to worry about that. And this one is okay. Again, not, going to set the world on fire, but it's okay. So Speak No Evil is in theaters. It stars James McAvoy. Well, Culture Blaster, you have really taken us around the horn today with some projects that you felt sort of meh about, but then I would say you've landed for the most part on the positive side of meh on these projects.
You're right. You're right. Particularly Speak No Evil and My Old Ass, which I thought had value for sure.
Where can people read your latest thoughts and musings, Culture Blaster?
As I said, a piece on horror movies and the proliferation of them at thevoicesf.org. And I will be back from my SF remote location next Friday here on the Mark Thompson Show, I hope.
Well, that's exciting. I'll be on the road, but we'll still be on the show, even though I'll be on the road.
Well, there may be a kinder, gentler approach to my segment then. So there you go.
Well, I am feeling as though we were quite kind and quite gentle, but we will certainly bring it up in the meeting. He is Michael Snider. You can find him at thevoicesf.org. His writings, his musings, his reflections, and the promise of a greater future. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Who can't love him? The great Culture Blaster. Thank you, Culture Blaster.
You are welcome. Go Niners. Beat the Vikes.
Yeah, right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We are so late today, but I feel as though we've had a really good day. Don't you think so? I was looking for a yeah, we really have from somebody, Albert. I mean,
yeah, we really have. Yep.
Thank you.
So
I need a little
good.
amen corner once in a while.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. Eric, you. How do you say? I would say Eric, you. $20 super sticker. Who can't love Eric? You.
Big shout out.
Love you, Eric. Thank you so much. As I say, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So much. This from our favorite nutritionist Liz. For Michael Snider, who always answers my IG messages and concepts, etc. We read it already, but thank you. I wanted to thank some Patreon people. We have a couple of new ones. I will do it next week, I promise. And thank you, Patreon and PayPal people.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
I will be on the road next week, but I will be joining every single day, so nobody misbehave. After Party Live next. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.